what world are we in? Indiana just won a natty, went 16-0, and we're talking about how Indiana's just going to reload.
It's the arrival. I came in the league, went straight for the title.
He's got it! Jeremiah Smith!
The Michigan Wolverines shocked the college football world.
You know, some people gotta learn how to lose, man.
And after all that, it's Ohio State together at the mountaintop.
There's nothing quite like the game.
Michigan versus Ohio State.
This is The Rivalry. Proud to be part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and sponsored by Elevated Integrity Construction.
The Surgeon General's been telling you for years that SIGs will do irreparable damage, and that irreparable damage has resulted in a 16-0 Indiana national championship.
How long did it take for you to think of that
I thought
one?
of it on the way over here.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
That feels like something you pondered all last weekend.
No,
and you just couldn't wait to come in here and say
Sometimes genius comes to me, and sometimes you get left with
and
whatever
sometimes
that
you're
was.
Michigan State and you just can't find it.
This is the Rivalry Podcast. My name is Jace. That's JP. It's Michigan and Ohio State, a podcast dedicated to the greatest rivalry, not just in college football, but in all of sports. It's from River Radio Ministries and presented by our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction. This is the season finale of season 7 of this podcast. We've got off-season content planned, so fear not. If you're like, oh, good, these yahoos are finally done.
Joke's on you. We ain't finished yet. I ain't hear no bell.
Another one.
Yeah.
But for right now, the end of the regular season, Indiana, like not even 12 hours ago, as of when we're recording, wins a national championship. First team to go 16-0 since like the 1894 Yale Bulldogs, something like that. It was wild. We'll get to them, but before we do, a little wheel route to kind of get us going, because this is an Ohio State Michigan podcast, obviously. By the way, at Rival Pod across social media and rivalpod.com. If you're watching on YouTube right now, go ahead and subscribe. That helps a ton. But wheel route from our friends at the Ohio Sinus Institute. Ohio State does not have an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Yours, what happened to yours? Where's he?
He left for the University of South Florida
right before
at
the
best time you possibly could, right before the Big Ten championship game against the now national champion Indiana Hoosiers.
Would you say that
so
he
it was
felt,
pretty exactly an ideal situation for us.
Did he feel focused in any of the two games after that?
If he did, it sure didn't look like it. Yeah, that is a complete mess. And obviously there are some recruits that have followed him to South Florida. You had CJ Hicks going. I want to say Bryson Rogers also did. I know I'm probably missing another one or two. A handful of guys going and following Brian Hartline. But now that leaves a huge hole. And Ohio State has yet to fill it. I've seen a handful of different theories on this. A lot of it makes sense, right? They're kind of waiting out the NFL. That's been kind of their MO the past couple of off seasons, is grab one of these guys that kind of needs a fresh start somewhere else, whether it's a head coach that had been let go or an offensive coordinator that had been in the league that needs to kind of prove themselves again. They took a step down the ladder. They need to get back up. You saw that with Chip Kelly.
Bill O'Brien for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, he didn't even get to call a game. He was that high of a commodity. I would say Matt Patricia is one of those guys right now. I don't think long-term that he's a Buckeye guy. I think you're going to see him, if not next year, the year after, especially if the defense continues to play really well under him. You're going to hear his name being thrown around a lot. That kind of seems to be the cycle Ohio State has gone. So it doesn't surprise me that they haven't hired anybody yet, because I feel like they're kind of waiting the NFL out a little bit to kind of see, okay, is there a guy that we think kind of fits this mold, that the name alone brings a lot of value? Because they're not going and grabbing some of these lesser known NFL guys. They're getting all of these guys that we just mentioned are top tier names when they were in the league. So it doesn't surprise me that if that were to be true, that they're waiting out the circumstances. But we're going to take a stab, or I'm going to take a stab at who I think they should go after. And this isn't who I think some of this is realistic. One of them I actually feel very confident is going to be the guy. And I'm going to preface this by saying I don't love it.
Okay.
You probably already know who that guy is. And it's widely rumored that this is kind of just the natural progression for this guy. So I'll start with him, Keenan Bailey. He's the current tight end coach. He was the assistant OC under Hartline, had kind of helped out there. There's been a lot of talk about him being internally promoted to the OC. It just doesn't it doesn't move the needle. I forget who it was that you mentioned during the whole Michigan head coach transition where you said like, yeah, this makes sense. It just wouldn't excite me. It's not a hire that I'm going to get
Jed
really.
Fish.
Yes. Okay.
Fish.
Yes.
And some of the sentiment even around that I think applies here too was Klatt talking about winning. There's a difference between winning the press conference and winning the hire.
Mm-hmm.
And hiring Bailey would probably not win the press conference, but could you win the hire? Sure. But I would also look at it from the Michigan side, admittedly, not knowing a lot about Ohio State's tight end coach, but even just looking at the tight end play for Ohio State and going, I don't see anything there that would terribly excite me. Now, those are they're very different jobs. But I mean, are you seeing anything from the tight end room that makes you go, yeah, that's amazing? Like, so for example, Max Clare coming in, right? Max Clare coming in. I think you and I both thought this could be the best tight end in the country.
Yeah. I expected him, and this is going to be the homerism of me. I expected it to be like a Cade Stover 2.0. You'd get an athletic tight end that can go out there. I expected like low end 600-700 yards from him, and handful of touchdowns.
And there was just, and I did too. I thought, I've seen a ton of just phenomenal NFL caliber. Look at what Colston Loveland's doing in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
Look at
not right now.
Listen, he is a legend, and you'll respect him. But look, Luke Schoonmaker and like all these AJ Barner, all these great Michigan tight ends that have gone to the NFL. And so I'm kind of looking at well, Max Clare on the rival side might be that guy.
Yeah.
And maybe he will in the league. But I didn't see anything from this past year that made me go, oh yeah, they are really utilizing that tight end room.
Well, and that was, I mean,
is that on the OC or is that on the coordinator? I don't know.
And I don't think it's because it's been lack of talent. I mean, look at Max Clare. I think Cade Stover has been the best tight end prospect since Jeremy Ruckert for us, which was back in the Justin Field days.
There's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
And so, I mean, that position has been a group where I feel like G. Scott was a guy. I know he's bounced around the league from practice squad, but I think he was still a really talented tight end. Cade Stover, I thought, was a great tight end. He's in the league right now playing for the Texans. They've had the talent at that position, and it seems like every year, minus Cade Stover, it's underperformed. So I'm just not excited about it. I've not seen anything to get me pumped up about that hire, but I do think that's the most realistic. One name, though, that I've seen floated around every now and then that I actually think would be a phenomenal hire for numerous reasons, and this is a name that I know you hate. JT Barrett.
I've seen this one floating around too.
He's obviously a former Buckeye great, one of the best quarterbacks in program history. He is beloved by the fan base, a mature guy. He is a leader. That is what made him such a good quarterback. He's the current quarterback coach of the Chicago Bears. You've seen what he's been able to do with Caleb Williams this year in the league. I feel like getting him in there to help teach a still young Julian Sayin, to get him behind a guy like St. Clair to help kind of mold with that offense where you're at a really pivotal point right now where you've got Jeremiah Smith for one more year. Brandon Ennis is gone after this year. You lost a lot of your freshman wide receiver depth that you had been banking on in Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. Carnell Tate leaves early to go to the draft. So you're looking at this room and you're going, okay, your best players now are going to be your young guys. You're going to have a Chris Henry Jr. that's a freshman. You're going to have Bo Jackson going into his sophomore year. You're going to have Julian Sayin going into his redshirt sophomore year. And it's time to get a guy that can really build into that and help develop a good culture. The thing that I wasn't doing this show back then when JT was still the quarterback. One of the things that I loved about JT was his leadership. And I think you saw that basically every single season. If you look at all the national champions, and it's going to sound obvious, right? You've got a quarterback that is a mature leader. You got Mendoza, which, I mean, for as much garbage as I've given them, I'm on board now.
You can't not be on board. Well, they have conquered everyone and forced you on board.
I had been since that Ohio State game. I said that if they beat Ohio State, I would believe them. And every single game since, I picked them. I started to believe in them. Mendoza, I'm on board with it. He deserved the Heisman. The leadership that you see, I was telling our producer, Judah, right before we started recording, Usually when it comes to the NFL draft, there are certain guys that you can see the raw talent and you can see the physical skill set to be QB1. But it's rare to see a guy that has that and the maturity to be a pro and be so pro ready. That's what I see when I see Mendoza. Same thing with Will Howard. I thought Will Howard last year was a mature leader. He had control of that locker room. I would say the same thing with McCarthy. And I think it was on a different level, but I think the passion and I think that Michigan team looked to him. And I think it all showed. Getting a guy like JT that knows how to build that culture with a really young offense, I think would be super important. You've seen Ohio State have success with bringing in their alumni. Look at James Laurinaitis. Look at Brian Hartline. They've had success of bringing these guys. Look at Mike Vrabel going in and getting his team to an AFC championship game in the league right now. They've had success at bringing in these guys that have developed into phenomenal coaches. It feels like the next stepping stone for JT to get in there and be that young guy still searching out where to find his niche in the system, getting his first real big opportunity at a place he's already super familiar with. He understands the culture. He understands what the game means. You're not bringing some outside source that hasn't already bought into the traditions. This would excite me. I know that it would cause a lot of people some concerns and questions because he's never been in that role yet. But this is one that I would get excited about, I would believe in, and I would 100% support.
Is Matt? Let me ask this on the defensive side. This isn't the question, but is the rumor on Matt Patricia? While we're talking coordinators, now that we're done talking about Michigan's rotating coaching staff for once,
well,
praise God. Like, is Patricia going back to the league, or is he back in Columbus?
I've not.
Is that
seen,
still open?
For everything that I've seen, it is very, very, very likely that he returns to Columbus at least this season.
Okay.
I've seen that he wants to stay. Ryan Day obviously wants to keep him around. The defensive players love him, but I don't think that anybody's ignorant to the fact that like his goal is to go back. And so I think we've got him for another year or two max. And then I think you see a Chip Kelly situation. I think he goes and gets another job somewhere in the league. And then we're looking for a defensive coordinator.
Could I interest you in Wink Martindale?
You could not. You simply just could not.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's talk. We'll get to kind of season reflections for Michigan and Ohio State, looking ahead into the 2026 season in a moment. But I think you hit on Indiana a little bit there. I mean, we'd be remiss not to reflect on the ultimate game of the college football season.
Exactly
there.
what you wanted.
The number of times in that game last night where Indiana wins their first national title. What a world to live in. The number of times that I mentally buried Miami in that game, and yet they just would not go away. You know, ESPN would talk about Georgia being hard to kill. That was Miami. That was Miami too. And credit to the Hurricanes for just, they very easily could have just rolled over when they were down. You know, they doinked the field goal going into halftime. It's 10-0. Indiana's getting the ball, and I'm thinking, oh, this might be done. This might get ugly. Miami claws their way back into it, hits the big run from Fletcher. Indiana blocks the punt, and I thought, well, should I go to bed now? Is that? And every time, what Mendoza makes the incredible touchdown run. What a gutsy call from Signetti. And Miami still finds a way to make it a game. It just, the resiliency, even though they didn't come out on the right side of it, if you're a Hurricane fan, I was very impressed with. And so I don't want that to get lost in the rightful heaping of praise on Indiana for a historic season.
Yeah. If you would have told me before this game, and our producer Judah and I were talking about this, if you would have said before the game, Miami was going to outgain Indiana in total yardage, that Carson Beck was going to play better than Mendoza, Mendoza was going to have less than 200 yards passing, and then if you would have told me they would have held Indiana to like 2-point-something yards per carry on 40-plus touches, I'm probably telling you Miami ends up winning that game. If that's all you're telling me. But then you look deeper into it. Indiana's time of possession, they had about 36 and a half minutes worth of possession compared to Miami's 23 and a half, almost a quarter longer that Indiana held the ball. On third down, Indiana went 6 of 16. Miami went 3 of 11. And it seemed like, and obviously you have the turnover at the end, which I kind of throw out because it mattered, but it's towards the end of the game, you're rushing, whatever. this was a game where you saw the gutsiness and who wanted it more. When it was that I think it was back-to-back drives where it was 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, like that kind of middle range drive. And Fernando Mendoza throws a pass to Charlie Decker that just back-to-back phenomenal plays. I mean, we talk about it all the time here. You always see that one play, and I think we even did it last episode.
Yep.
There's always that one play where you see it and you go, yep, it's destiny.
Well,
and that very first one that he did on that back shoulder, I thought, that right there.
Also, anytime that Charlie Becker made a play in that game, I just heard, because I made fun of him for it, Gus Johnson screaming, Charlie B, Nashville, Tennessee, touchdown, Hoosiers. And I made fun of him for it. And then anytime he made a big play, I was kind of like, I could kind of go for Gus Johnson screaming into a microphone here, man.
Becker was incredible last night. A huge offensive weapon for them, but you just could sense it. And then when it was the 4th down, you already mentioned it. Mendoza was just one of the gutsiest runs that I've seen in a long time. And just the decisiveness from Cignetti to go, we got to put him away. We got to figure out a way to close this.
And this is not second guessing. Like, it's first guessing. Like, that was such a great call. Like, that was the right call in that situation, because again, you're up by 3. If you kick a field goal, you're up by.
Oh, you're asking 6.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
You're testing my math real.
But for him to look at that and go, if I kick a field goal here, I'm giving Miami the ball with a chance to go take the lead.
Yeah.
If I go for it here and don't get it, I'm giving Miami the ball to go take the lead if they score a touchdown also. Why don't I just go for it?
Yeah.
Well, and if I miss it, they're pinned inside the 15.
Yeah.
It was just all around there are so many coaches. Sharon Moore feels like a weird one to throw out there, but like Sharon Moore would never have gone for that. I don't think Ryan Day would have gone
Ryan
for
Day's
that.
kicking that 100%. And missing it.
The fact that right, R.I.P. Jason Fielding. But the fact that Sig made that call, and then the fact that Mendoza executed. So after I watched it, in not just in national championship games, but like in playoff games like that, these high stakes games, national champions can look back and go, there's multiple plays, right? But like, there's a play that just feels like when you see it live, you go, that's going to get rewatched forever if we finish this out. I think about, Ezekiel Elliott, the Alabama game, right? I mean, through the heart of the South.
The heart of the South.
When you watch that game, if you're an Ohio State fan, you go, I'm going to watch that forever.
Jack Sawyer's scoop and score last year. One of those.
Correct. For Michigan, I actually think, yes, in the national title game would be Mikey Sangerstil's interception. But
I know what you're going to say. Corum.
The first thing I thought of when I saw Mendoza score was I thought, that's Blake Corum at Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Like, it's just like, as soon as I saw Corum spin away from 3 different guys, I went and score. I said, if we win this and if we win the whole thing, that's immediately, first thought was, that's a forever play. That's a forever play. Mendoza had himself a forever play on that one.
Yeah. What I loved about it is football is such a mental game. And we've talked about it on this podcast a handful of times in different variations. But by deciding to go for that, you're saying so many different things all at once, right? You're saying, I trust my offense. Yep. You're automatically giving your offense the confidence. You're giving your quarterback, the most important person on the field at the time, the confidence that you believe in him, that they can pick that up. Because it was 4th and 5?
It was 4th and 5.
4th and 5.
Yeah.
Which is even gutsier. It's not 4th and 1, 4th and 2. This is 4th and 5. So you're automatically telling your offense, I believe in you to go and get this.
Yep.
Which is huge, a huge confidence boost in that. You're also telling the defense, you can't stop us.
Yeah.
And there's one of 2 things. You're testing out how tough that other team on the other side of the ball really is. Is that going to fire them up if they see the offense start walking back on the field in 4th and 5? Are they going to be disrespected, or are they going to allow it to continue to happen? It's like what we talked about a couple of years ago when Moore was the interim coach in Harbaugh's absence in the game. And the biggest difference in that game was that he was not afraid to go for it on those. Yeah. He wasn't afraid to put the ball on the ground and say,
I trust my guys.
I trust my guys. If you want to beat us, stop us. And that was the mindset. And honestly, that's been Cignetti's mindset since he got his whole coaching career, is that cockiness, confidence that in order to beat them, you've got to be able to stop them. And I loved it. I am a huge fan of that play style. And it was such a cool thing to see. Just so many of the scenes from last night, too, from the Indiana campus to one of the coolest moments were them singing that Fernando song as Indiana was walking off the field and the crowd was just erupting. Just a beautiful sight. If it's not going to be your team, it was hard to not root for the Hoosiers.
I was just saying, unless
I don't typically like rooting for the Big Ten other than Rutgers, which I'll never have to worry about that. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I just want a good game. I don't really care who wins. I did not want Miami to win that last night.
I was gonna say, like, unless you are a Miami fan, I mean, I don't know outside of, hey, I'm a Hurricane fan. I can't think of a reason why you would not want Indiana to win that game.
Yeah,
I can't. By the way, the Big Ten has now won back to back national title. It's amazing now that everybody is allowed to pay their players, not just Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. Suddenly, the Big Ten owns this sport.
Can we share one thing though? That this is maybe a small little tangent.
Yeah, it's a podcast, man. You can. This whole thing is a tangent.
This is something that bothered me last night, and I don't know if it bothers you at all.
It probably doesn't.
It probably doesn't. There were numerous people that I know that follow Ohio State, big Buckeye fans during the season, that last night on social media on their profiles were tweeting out "Go Hoosiers." They were on Facebook saying, "Let's go Indiana." I mean, like actively rooting for Indiana. And there was something that irked me about it.
Yeah.
That, like, I get being like, yeah, I'm fine with Indiana. Like, that's where I was at. If Indiana won, cool. That's
I mean, I was cheering for Indiana. I'd say that, but I wasn't like changing my profile picture to like the Bison or whatever.
I maybe it was that. Maybe it's just like going out on socials and
publicly
like,
trying to get close to something that my team couldn't qualify for.
Yeah, like,
that's different than just I cheered for Indiana, but I'm not like hashtag I don't know what their cheers are. But
if Indiana winning, I was like, okay, that's fine. But there was something about like and some of these are media credentialed Ohio State people that I'm watching go on there and they're posting like, "Go Big Ten, let's go Hoosiers," and I'm like, I mean, or not. Maybe now I am rooting for Miami.
I'm excited that going into last night, it wasn't a worry at all that the SEC was something.
Yeah. Can that conversation just die?
I think Paul Feinbaum has to leave the country now.
Yeah.
Didn't he say I'm leaving the country? The Big Ten owns this sport. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to apologize. The Big Ten owns this
honestly, sport. Spoiler alert, next year they're going to do the same.
We'll get to our Stupid Genius game season ended 12 hours ago. Let's pick next year's national champion pick, which I'm sure will go well. But first, maybe you feel like Mario Cristobal in Miami. Yeah, I'm letting that sink in a little bit for all the angry Miami fans in our comments. You're trying to build like a champion and you're so close, but you might not know how to execute it because Carson Beck just threw another interception. Aaron and the team at Elevated Integrity Construction have a winning pedigree and a team of All-Americans. They are a juggernaut of the industry. They've built a dynasty with championship builders. If you've got a home, church, or business build, go with the folks with integrity right there in their name at elevatedintegrity.com. That's the last shot that I get to take at a team for
don't be like Miami and wait 20 plus years to get started on that project.
Wow.
Start now.
Wow. Before people get more mad because you're going to say more things, the Rivalry Podcast, also a proud member of the Varsity Network, powered by our friends at Learfield. Varsity Network, the must-have app if you call yourself a college football fan, which hopefully you do. Live broadcasts, on-demand podcasts just like this one. Free to download. Find the Varsity Network in the App Store and be sure to search for the Rivalry Podcast. We also want to say thanks to a new sponsor this year, the Ohio Sinus Institute. Thank you. You deserve better sinus care. Get relief from the most experienced sinus specialist in Central Ohio, Dr. Boris Karanfilov. Surgeon-led, personalized care with over 20 years of experience. Minimally invasive procedures, in-office treatments, and on-site CT imaging for quicker results and better answers. The Ohio Sinus Institute. And finally, proud again this season, getting to partner with our friends at Homage. Since 2007, Homage has been helping fans pay homage to to the people, places, teams, and moments that matter most to them. With quality craftsmanship, elite storytelling, and that trademarked legendary comfort, you can get yourself something from Homage. I'm wearing the Detroit, I think it's actually Detroit Tigers, but it just says Detroit. And so it works for everybody. The Wings, man. The Wings are playing good hockey. You're not a hockey guy. You don't care about this.
I'm not.
If you had to pick a hockey team,
you could have just
pick?
named anything in Michigan and I wouldn't have cared. So
If you had to pick a hockey team, who would you pick?
the Blue Jackets.
Okay, fair enough. But you don't actually get you.
No, I like hockey.
Have you ever been to a hockey game?
Yes.
Okay.
I think even with you.
Don't. Oh yeah, we did go to a hockey
Wow.
game together.
Wow.
Well, when you say
Wow.
I don't care about hockey, and then you can't get mad when I say, "Have you been to a
Wow.
hockey game?" We did. We did the outdoor.
I said
series.
I don't care about Michigan.
We did the Michigan Ohio State outdoor game in Cleveland.
Wow.
Still haven't found the.
There's
Orange
a whole
Parking
video
Garage.
proof. You can check it out at Rival Pod on YouTube. Apparently, I remember it and Jace doesn't.
Click the link below and wherever you're listening or watching and get yourself something from Homage. It's great and it supports the podcast. By the way, riflepod.com, you can support the podcast as well. Just because we're going to the off season doesn't mean we don't need support, because guess what? The off season is where we find out, hey, how much of our teeny tiny budget do we actually have for next year? So if you want to get yourself a t-shirt, you want to throw $10 our way, say, hey, appreciate the work, keep it up. We'd really appreciate that. We've got some rivalry stickers for you. Just little ways to say thank you for your support. That would mean the world. If you can't do that, be sure to just rate, review, and subscribe. That helps us out a ton. We do want to get to some like season reflection and season ahead now.
Yeah. Now that the season ended.
Do you want to start with Ohio State or Michigan here?
Yeah,
Where do we
we can start with Ohio State if you want.
Let's do Ohio State, because we already kind of touched in on that a little bit there.
Yeah.
So like now that the national title's wrapped up, your season ended like a bajillion years ago, just like Michigan's. Michigan won the same number of playoff games you did, by the way.
That's fine.
But in all seriousness, looking back at the season, like how would you maybe grade it, but how would you evaluate the season? And what are you looking at heading not just into spring bubble, like looking ahead into September of 26?
Yeah, I think
it's a big question, but you
looking back full circle, my expectations preseason, there were a lot of questions with Julian saying, I had some questions at the running back position. The defense, I had a lot of question marks on because they weren't returning a good majority of their starters. So if I'm going how I would grade the season based off what I kind of thought, and I still believe that I rated them pretty high. I think even preseason, I said they maybe would have one loss. And I thought it would maybe be that Texas game where I could see it going 50-50.
Yeah, I think you were closer than me. I had 9-3.
I definitely didn't have more than
you had
two.
like 11-1.
Yeah, I had them like 11-1. I would still say I would grade the season as an A. And maybe that surprises some people. I very much live in the mindset it's natty or bust. So there's part of me that wants to go, it was a failure because you didn't get it. I also understand how hard that is to do. You're not going to realistically do that every single year. I think a lot of those questions were answered. I think Julian Sain proved himself to be a dude.
Yeah.
I think the running game kind of solidified itself. I think you found your guy going forward, Bo Jackson. The defense, I thought, obviously played outstanding, well above what people's expectations were.
I think that was the biggest question mark on the team, and that was
other than the quarterback,
probably
100%.
the strongest part of the team.
100%, I would say, was the strongest, and you're going to have that same situation coming into this next season. So, based off last season, where I thought going prior when we started this thing up in early August, I would say it was an A. Obviously, you still failed. Going and losing to Miami in your first playoff game isn't ideal. But I thought there were a lot of questions that I had last year that ended up getting answered. Looking ahead at next season is going to be wild because you're basically in the same boat that you were last year and with a heck of a lot tougher of a schedule. I marked down some of the key games for Ohio State.
By the way, you'll hear some similarities in the Michigan schedule as well, because both these teams have gauntlets.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the excuse next year if Ohio State ends up performing well of, well, what's your schedule look like? Ohio State is at Texas.
I thought you were going to start with Ball State, man. Okay.
Well, you never know. You just never know.
But yes, at Texas, second week of the season.
At Texas. Then you have Oregon at home, Indiana, Iowa, USC, and Michigan. I mean,
it's a lot, man.
That's a gauntlet. That is an absolute gauntlet.
And most of those are road games too. You're at Texas.
Indiana's a road game. You're
at Indiana. You're at Iowa. You are at USC.
Yeah.
And frankly, you're at Nebraska, and who knows? Well,
Nebraska. Yeah.
But at USC, at Indiana, at Iowa, at Texas.
Yeah.
That's just the away games.
Yep.
I mean, that's rough.
It is a gauntlet of a schedule next year. It's going to be tough. This is one, and I'm usually the side where I go, Ohio State's going to win every single game they play. Early season, looking at this, I'm going, there's at least 2 losses again. Based off what I'm looking at now, this is at least 1 to 2 losses almost guaranteed.
Well, and it's one of those things too, where now that there's not a spring transfer portal window, you more or less know. Now, guys that are in the portal can still move to play teams and whatever else. But I mean, at USC is going to be Jaden Mayava.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that. Hosting Oregon, but it's going to be Dante Moore.
Yep.
At Texas, it's Arch Manning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Indiana, Josh Hoover.
And so some of what these teams will look like, maybe even more so than in years past. Now, you could have, last year in August, people were looking at Penn State going, this is a national championship
in Illinois,
team,
I remember you even said that.
Yeah.
Washington was another one people threw out.
And so of course it's impossible to tell, but on paper, that's a tough schedule. But I will say this, and I'll repeat it here in a second when we talk about Michigan's schedule, because it's basically the same thing. It's terrible. Nobody cares.
Yep.
And that's the logical side of you as a fan. The logical side of you as a fan can look at a schedule like this and go, logically, if I'm an Ohio State fan, we are going to go 9-3, 10-2, and it'll just depend if we make the playoffs on how it shakes out. But you're not really allowed by the fan base at large to think that way, even though that's realistic. The answer is 12-0,
undefeated.
You beat your rival, you win the Big Ten, you win the Natty. Those are your goals.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's still very possible. I'm looking at some of the areas of need for Ohio State next year, because you had almost every single person go to the transfer portal, it felt like, for a time there. And I know they actually ended up doing very well in the portal themselves, bringing in a lot of key guys. Some of the areas of need that I think I've got bigger questions on going into next season, I think the secondary is one of those.
Yeah.
You're obviously losing the best player you had on defense, in my opinion, in Caleb Downs.
Sure.
I don't know how many people would argue that. Yeah. Maybe somebody would say Arvell Reese. Maybe some would even maybe make the case for Sonny Styles. I think losing all 3 of those guys is going to play a huge part. Yeah. The secondary is one for me that I've got question marks. You've got Jermaine Matthews coming back, but you lose Igbinosun. You lose a lot of your secondary depth. Bryce West is gone. Aaron Scott Jr. ends up committing to Oregon.
West went to Notre Dame?
I believe so.
Okay. I know I saw
so.
Scott went to Oregon.
I don't actually know if West committed yet. Okay. I could be wrong on that. I know Scott over the weekend, or maybe it was last week, went to Oregon. You also had Malik Hartford, who ended up transferring. He was a guy that played safety for Ohio State.
Wisconsin.
West went. Yes. Okay. I knew that he did commit somewhere. So you're looking at a secondary that doesn't have a ton of depth to it. You still got a guy like Devin Sanchez, who's going to be coming in, who played some minutes last season. I think he'll be good. He was a 5-star guy coming out as a freshman. I would also say a huge question mark for me now is the linebacking group. You're going to have Peyton Pierce is going to be there. Riley Pettijohn's going to be another guy they're going to depend on. I think Pettijohn has a chance to be a guy like Arvell Reese by the time he gets ready to leave. And then the biggest thing for me, well, maybe not the biggest, another thing, it's all defense.
Sure.
Because you're losing just so many guys. Yeah. I actually think the defensive line itself is good, the initial group. The guys you added from Alabama help. They help, but you still have guys like Kenyatta Jackson Jr. who's returning. You still have Edric Houston, who's been valuable. If he can get those stupid penalties out of the way, he would be fine. You still have Bo Atkinson, the guy that transferred in last season from Duke. You still have these guys that are going to come in and be a decent front four. What I think is going to be interesting to me is the depth behind that now. And that's going to be my biggest question mark. Offensively, you still got a bunch of guys returning that I think actually helps this team a lot, which is why I think this offensive coordinator position hire is so important right now, as it always is. But I think this year, really, you still have Julian Sane coming back. You have Jeremiah Smith in his final year. Let's be real. Bo Jackson is coming back.
By the way, I feel like in the offseason, it's safe for me to kind of take the foam Wolverine head off now and go, thank God that it's Jeremiah Smith's last year, because that man has been in college for forever.
It's not like we have this other 5-star guy named Chris Henry Jr. coming in that you'll have to worry about.
We'll see.
But you've got Jeremiah Smith.
It can't be worse.
Fair. Bo Jackson, Brandon Ennis, which I know that you've said,
no one is worried about
still
Brandon
had
Ennis.
more receiving yards than Andrew Marsh in the game. The entire O-line is basically returning outside of Shagbola, or I can never say his last name.
Shagbola, yeah.
Outside of him, which he was kind of towards the end of the season being rotated in and out. So you're going to get an experienced O-line back that I still think is pretty good.
I was going to ask because I don't know that I do think that, and so I was curious.
Don't hear me say that I think they're elite. I think that they are.
Like,
I think they are good enough to get the job done.
And having
played
played together is going to help.
And I think they have the potential to be that good, because you saw that in 2024 where there were a lot of people, even that season, that were like, well, this is kind of a patchwork O-line.
And it was.
And then they figured it out.
Yeah.
And so I think that this group, Luke Montgomery's a guy, Carson Hinsman's a guy, Philip Daniel, who I watched get his lunch money took against Ruben Bain, which who couldn't. They're all returning, but I have faith that group is going to be solid. So this offense has some guys. Chris Henry Jr., I expect to come in and play the Carnell Tate role.
He's going to have an immediate impact.
And I don't think the expectation for him is the same level as what it was for Jeremiah Smith. I think Jeremiah can just continue to be himself and be healthy. Brandon Ennis can get you 300 to 500 yards in the season, and you're looking at Chris Henry to do 600 to 700. I think you would be fine with that.
You need a guy who's going to be able to threaten.
Yeah.
Someone that can
another deep threat.
Because I'll be honest, Brandon Ennis ain't drawing any attention when Jeremiah Smith's out there. So you need somebody that can step into that role and draw defenders' eyes, can draw defenders' bodies to give Jeremiah more opportunity. Now, Jeremiah can create plenty of separation on his own, but if everyone can just key in on him, of course it gets difficult. Yeah. You know? He's human, I think.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but maybe. So
I can see how one might think that. Yeah,
there have been a time or two, maybe he did drop a pass.
Yeah,
and so I'm looking at the offense, and that doesn't worry me. I think the running back depth maybe does a little bit. You have Isaiah West. I know they got the guy. He's like a 7th-year senior from Florida. They brought in.
Cool.
And I don't expect much playing time outside of Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. I think those are your two guys. But Lord forbid something happened to Bo Jackson, I'm going to start to be concerned. Same thing with the quarterback room. I would put that up there as well. The depth in those positions, as well as wide receiver. David Adolph right now is our wide receiver 4, I guess, technically, because you've got Chris Henry coming in. That'll likely be a starter.
Well, you're signing that guy from UTSA. Shout out our boys, Meep Meep Nation.
Yeah, true. There are some guys coming in that I think will help fill those roles. But I would still say some of the wide receiver room depth is a bit of a concern. Nothing crazy. Tight ends, you're losing Max Clare, obviously. Kazmarek is gone. You still got some decent guys in that room. The offense, like I said, doesn't really worry me. A lot of my question marks are going to be around this defense.
Yeah, and I think you identified the key areas well. I mean, I have said for years, like I have not bought Ohio State's, not necessarily the secondary, but like Ohio State's corners. I've not bought for years. I've never been a fan of Igbinosun. I don't think he's that good. And I'm not really concerned about Jermaine Matthews. And so it'll be interesting to see how those players develop between now, obviously not Igbinosun, but how those guys who are now slotted in for starting roles, how they develop heading into spring ball, heading into fall camp and all that stuff. Because you're right. The guys like Bryce West and Aaron Scott, I mean, those were big Michigan targets too. They're out of Springfield. And when they committed to Ohio State, it was a big loss. It goes back to what we talked about last week too. And this was our T-Bone over at 97.1 here in Columbus talking about, I don't want to hear about boom anymore. I don't want to hear about 5-star signing battle. He's like, it doesn't matter. These kids will probably not even play for you. It's about how you use the portal. And he's 100% right.
And I think my biggest question on the defense is you're looking at this past season and you had just veteran leadership across the board. And now I'm looking at it going, who's wearing the green dot? Who's the guy out there directing traffic? You had that in Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, which every single other team in the nation would probably have killed to have even one of those guys to be their kind of lead guy on defense. I don't know if I can see a guy right now on the Ohio State side of the ball that I feel like has that kind of leadership. Now they could. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see
they'll develop through spring and fall.
Who's to really say? But right now, there's not a standout guy. Where I think even last year or the year they won the championship and all those guys left, I think people looked and said, "Well, you've got Sonny Styles and you've got Caleb Downs, so like we know who our leaders on defense are. Who's going to be that guy for this defense moving forward?" That's my biggest overall question.
I'd rather not reflect on Michigan's season if that's okay
I would
with you.
look,
All right.
if you want to let me have the floor, I've got 12 minutes worth of Bryce Underwood that I can bring up.
So now that I think, the coaching smoke is cleared and Michigan's got their guys in place and the portal's closed and, the mass exodus didn't really happen. There's a few key guys that Michigan lost, which that can be said for any team in the country. Mm-hmm. But the great concern, what I'll call, quote, the great concern, Andrew Marsh, Jordan Marshall, now that that's kind of alleviated, we've got coaches in place. Now that we can clear that out, looking back on the season, I mean, certainly no one's going to look at that and go, well, yeah, that was a successful season, right? You missed the playoffs. You did not beat your rival. And so it wasn't a successful season. Now, the fact that Michigan won 9 games in the midst of gestures at everything is maybe a sign that was a really successful season. Obviously the off-field coaching stuff, I mean, we don't need to go back into that. I am glad, do I think Kyle Whittingham is a great coach? I do. I think that's a great hire. Do I have any idea if it's going to have, national championship success? No, I don't. I don't think anybody knows what it's going to look like. I think we have some ideas. I think he's got a long enough track record, obviously. But the sentiment seems to be, thank goodness we finally have what seems like an adult in the room who's not going to bring a bunch of drama with him. That's a win. On the football side, I mean, preseason, I don't remember what you picked for Michigan, but I know I picked them 9-3.
I think I said 2 or 3 losses.
I was going to say, were close. You were close there. I did not think that, I'm trying to remember who all I picked. I did not believe that Ohio State would be one of the losses.
Yeah. I feel like I picked them, Oklahoma, and I could have convinced myself on USC. So it wouldn't have surprised me if I had you at 3.
So I mean, Michigan in the biggest moments did not look prepared. They did not look well coached, understandably so. The development of Bryce Underwood was lacking. And I don't know, maybe that's because we didn't have a dedicated quarterback coach. Which is just wild. There's much of that short Sharon Moore tenure that I just am not going. I do not understand, why Michigan hired him with an opportunity to spend 9 months looking into him as the interim. I don't get that. How he got through
and I don't understand the financial investment of Bryce to then
not have a dedicated quarterback
to me,
coach?
That's just common sense of if you're going to invest that much money into anything, you're not going to do some form of insurance to make sure you get an ROI on that. You're not going to go and get your quarterback that you're paying $10 to $12 million over the next 3 to 4 years to go and be coached and developed.
That's not even a knock. By the way, that's not a knock on Chip Lindsey. I thought Chip Lindsey actually was a pretty good offensive coordinator. I would have liked having him stay around. When you're being asked to split time there, I mean, what do you? It's kind of, I can imagine him in these meetings going, "What do you want me to do?" And of course, there's these coaches that don't get along with Sharon, and Sharon's have it's just the whole thing was a mess. Michigan go 9-3. If they had beaten Ohio State, I'd say, you know what? Kind of a successful season still. Didn't happen. And so it's not. There's nothing really to show for that season. Burn the tape and let's move on. Could it have been worse? Yeah. Michigan got very fortunate against Northwestern, for example. They tried to give the game back late against Nebraska. They tried to let Purdue hang around for some reason. It could have been a lot worse. That's kind of my sentiment reflected back in the season is 9-3, given everything going on the field, off the field. That could have been a lot worse. I think in the portal, I think Michigan did decently. I'm looking through the list here. There are guys that, when we talked about this, and so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but we talked about this last episode where it's not about the sheer number of guys in the portal. It's about which guys were going to be significant contributors that now we're not going to be able to, right?
Yeah.
So it is the Aaron Scotts and the Bryce West. It's guys like that for Michigan. So that's why I'm looking at guys like Fred Moore and going, okay, wide receiver Fred Moore could not get on the field in the wide receiver room that Michigan had last year outside of Andrew Marsh. Okay, I'm not too concerned about that, but it is guys like Elijah Dotson. I thought was a good example. underclassman cornerback. Liked a lot of what I saw from him. Actually, I thought in the Texas game, played very well. Like I remember marking it down a couple times going, man, he's really coming on here. I would have loved to have kept Elijah Dotson because I think that would have been a really helpful depth piece. Cole Sullivan is probably the biggest loss to the portal. Linebacker signing with Oklahoma. We'll see him week 2. We'll get to Michigan's schedule here in a second. That's a huge loss because Michigan's biggest area of need right now is definitely linebacker. You know, you have Jimmy Rolder declaring for the draft, understandably so, but I was hoping to keep him. Rolder goes to the draft. Ernest Hausman is retiring from football. You've got Jayshon Barham going to the draft. And so Cole Sullivan was going to be the key guy. And so now that you don't have him, you do have Owosu Boateng, who's going to, got some because of Wink Martindale, got some decent reps. He's a good player, but it's not a guy that's going to be the guy right away.
Yeah.
I will say on the positive side, Michigan adding in Nathaniel Staling, linebacker captain from FCS powerhouse North Dakota State. That's a great get. Because again, could you find a flashier guy? Could you have, the Rasheem Biles and stuff? Yeah, of course you would have loved to have had him.
Yeah, for sure.
A linebacker captain from that powerhouse, I'll take him. Especially when you're looking around going, we need some guys with not just warm bodies that play the position. We need experience and we need leadership. That's a great get. I would say for Michigan, looking through the rest of these names here, even as I'm scrolling, I mean, there are guys that I would have liked to have kept. Jaden Sanders, another cornerback signed with Notre Dame. TJ Metcalf, a DB who's going to Tennessee with his brother. Those are significant areas of concern for me for Michigan on the defensive side of the ball. Much like Ohio State, defense is going to be the main area in the offseason that Michigan fans are going to panic a little bit over. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to panic, but I do think there's concern for sure. Now, the good news is that you're getting guys back like Jordan young safety, playing well. By the way, if you're like, I don't know who Jordan Young is, the Northwestern game where Michigan tried to just give the game away 5 different times, he's the one who is inexplicably on the field on a critical 3rd down, but ends up making a beautiful pass breakup and ends up Michigan winning the game. Zeke Berry coming back. I think is he an elite corner? No, but he's played the position. He's a good player, and he should be able to, hopefully with some better coaching, take a good step. That's a good get for a good bring back for Michigan. And then, of course, Michigan's got the guys who are portaling in. Guys who are portaling in on the defensive side of the ball, I would say for the most part, a little bit underwhelming. I mentioned Staling. I think that's a good, I'm not going to go through all these guys, but Staling is a good pickup at linebacker. Michigan grabs the 2-way player, Salisi Moa from Utah. And his brother as well, who plays linebacker at Michigan State. I'm not sure that that's a huge get because I've seen Michigan State play. But Salisi Moa was a huge recruit for Utah. And so that's a massive flip for Michigan to get him to come. Obviously, a bunch of Utah guys. Smith Snowden, cornerback for Utah. I mean, so, are you looking at Snowden and Berry at corner? Who knows? But yeah. I think I will say this on the defensive side of the ball. John Henry Daly at edge, Jonah Leia. Michigan's defense is going to be better than I think Michigan fans think they're going to be. Because if you're not following all the portaling in, portaling out, it's easy to look at this giant list of names and to see some significant guys who depart. And you go, well, I don't know who this guy is. And you go, trust the process. Like these are coaches who have worked with these kids, who have relationships with these kids. Michigan's defense is going to be just fine, especially under Jay Hill. Did you have any defensive thoughts? I'll hit offense here in just a second.
Yeah, it's not going to matter. They won't cover Jeremiah Smith, so
we'll see. Great. I don't even know why I give you an opportunity.
Honestly, I'm surprised you asked.
I was trying to be kind.
What did you expect?
My New Year's resolution is to be less kind to you. On the offensive side of the ball, excuse me. On the offensive side of the ball, Michigan should feel really good. Obviously, getting a quarterback coach. I actually think Michigan may have 2. I'll have to look back.
To make up for last year.
I guess we're making
double or nothing.
So Bryce Underwood, a lot of the criticism deserved.
Thank you. Not
all of it, and not all of it from you.
All of it.
But some of it certainly deserved. having Bryce Underwood on this team, do not let any Ohio State fan talk you into the fact that having Bryce Underwood on this team is not a good thing.
How dare you? I would never say that.
Bryce Underwood.
I think it's great that he's there to throw 83 yards.
And here we go again. Bryce Underwood is going to be a heck of a good quarterback. Having him back is massive. Jordan Marshall being on this team, massive. Sure, you would have liked to have retained Justice Haynes. Michigan added in other pieces with Tatum coming in from Oklahoma. Michigan's running Savion Hyder, 5-star freshman. Michigan's running back room is looking great. Andrew Marsh staying is massive. Jamie French from Texas, massive. JJ Buchanan, Utah, is a interesting piece because he's listed as a tight end, but he plays like a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So Michigan's now suddenly looking at a wide receiver room and going, do we have a wide receiver room? It looks like Michigan has a pretty good wide receiver room. One of the big areas of concern was the offensive line because Michigan had multiple offensive linemen hit the portal. You had Jake Guarnera, who was supposed to move to center this year. Hit the portal. You had Andrew Sprague hit the portal. And then you had them both come back into the fold.
Yeah, huge.
So now you're looking at guys like Babaloa, 5-star freshman, was injured, was not able to play at all this year. Babaloa, 5-star in the fold. You've got Sprague, you've got Guarnera, you've got Link, you've got Frazier, you've got, oh gosh, who am I missing? Somebody that I'm missing there. But Michigan has got, all that to say, Michigan has got a experienced and talented offensive line coming back in. And that's the Jim Harbaugh piece where he's exactly right. What's the only position in football that doesn't rely on any other position to be great? And it's offensive line. The wide receivers rely on the offensive line, the quarterback, the running back, like that side of the ball, like to be a lineman, nobody else. And this would go on the defensive side too, but particularly for offense, no one else, you don't have to rely on anybody else as a lineman to get your job done. Offensive line is where it starts and ends. And the fact that Michigan is returning these key guys, talented guys, experienced guys, I mean, this is just a really, really good situation. The offense should be good. And I think having a guy like Jason Beck come in, having dedicated quarterback coaches, knowing the style of smash mouth football that Michigan is still going to play because that's what Utah plays. And also just seeing the way that Utah has utilized mobile quarterbacks over the years, I think this is a really good situation for Bryce. And so looking back at everything that Michigan came through this season, looking ahead, they seem like they're going to be in really good shape. And they better be, because here's Michigan's schedule.
The schedule.
We talked about Ohio State's schedule. Michigan's, I don't know that it is as difficult as what Ohio State's staring down, but it's certainly not great. So Michigan has Oklahoma and we talked about quarterbacks coming back.
Yep.
John Mateer back again to haunt my nightmares. Oklahoma in week 2. And then the rest of these, schedule's not out yet for these, but John Mateer in Oklahoma is on the schedule. Josh Hoover in Indiana. Maybe you've heard of them, the defending national champions, on the schedule. Michigan does get Iowa this year. They get Penn State. Again, what are those teams going to look like? Don't know, but I don't think I'm going to like it. At Ohio State, obviously, toughest game on the schedule at the end of the year. Michigan also goes to Oregon.
Yeah, that ain't going to be fun for you.
So again, Oklahoma, Indiana, Iowa, Oregon, Ohio State, all on the schedule, along with Penn State, who's kind of a wild card here.
Yeah.
They get Oklahoma and Indiana and Iowa at home. That helps. But also, have you seen Oklahoma and Indiana? And then you get to go on the road at Oregon, at Ohio State. I mean, between Michigan and Ohio State, those have got, and I don't know what the rankings are, those have got to be two of the toughest schedules in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just brutal. So again, but much like Ohio State's schedule, nobody cares.
Yeah.
These are the teams on your schedule. The expectation is to go 12-0, as ridiculous as that is. I said Ohio State is probably, I don't know if I said this, Ohio State's easily staring down 10-2, 9-3. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Michigan, it's impossible to tell. I don't think 9-3 is that far. I mean, I think 9-3, I think you could easily make a case for an 8-4 team. Is that successful or not? Depends.
Yeah.
It entirely depends.
Probably
Depends-
not.
Depends on 8-4 would not be, but it also depends on, how good are these teams?
Yeah.
If Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana and Oklahoma are all, top 8 teams, okay, maybe 8-4 is okay. But yeah, your goals are the same every year. Your goals are the same every year. If you're Michigan or Ohio State, beat your rival, win the Big Ten, win a national title.
Well,
It's not easy.
now that we're talking about the national title, let's move on to our stupid genius pick, which we're going to do a little bit different.
Brought to you by the Ohio Science Institute.
Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
The national championship ended less than 12 hours ago, so let's take a stab at who we think is going to win the next one, shall we?
This is so dumb. I hate when podcasts do this.
So let's do it.
Great.
Do you want to go first?
No, I don't want to go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I have mine.
And by the way, we're putting in the stipulation that we are not allowed to pick Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah.
No matter
That
how
would be
much
so
I
boring.
think Michigan will go 16-0. Don't think that.
I also don't think that.
We're going. That'd be too
Yeah.
easy. Someone outside of the
Outside
teams in this
of
building.
Ohio State or Michigan, who do we think is going to win the championship next season? To me, it's very obvious. To me, it is extremely obvious. And I say that knowing that last year, I think that I said Penn State would probably get there this year if I wasn't picking Ohio State. And we all saw what happened there. I'm going Oregon. I think the Big Ten gets its 4th in a row. I think Oregon's the team to do it. They've been right on the cusp. They've been in the playoffs and then got bounced. I feel like with Dante Moore returning, they got Dylan Raiola as the backup. They got a lot of their key guys still returning. They got the safety from Minnesota.
Coy Parrish.
Yes. They got him. He transferred in. They also got Aaron Scott Jr. from Ohio State. Just loaded with talent. Dan Lanning, right now, one of the best coaches in the nation. It feels like, and I teased this last episode, and this is a whole different thing that we could go on. This feels like the best chance Dan Lanning has to do it. And this is obviously so early.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
But I think
on paper, yeah.
I think on paper, this is one of his most talented rosters. And I think if he fails again, especially if he fails as early in the playoffs as he does, if they don't do a significantly deep run, if they don't even necessarily make it to the championship, I think that there's a conversation to be had around Dan Lanning.
Which is insane.
I'm just saying.
That is an insane, because this is not James Franklin.
I'm not saying he's James Franklin.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's that territory yet. I think that is like very, very rare. But I do think it's fair to start criticizing him. Where if he fails, and I would define that as if he can't make it to at least the semis, make it to the semis, make it to the Natty. He doesn't. I would say he should win it. But to me, you've got to win the Big Ten championship. To me, you've got to go probably to the championship game for me. With the talent he's going to have, barring that they stay healthy. To me, I feel like there's a conversation to be had when you're continually getting to the playoffs. You're routinely good, but you just can't seem to get over that hump.
Well, and have gotten blown out.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to be able to call a spade and go, okay, are you ever going to be able to get over that?
See,
because
I disagree with that. I agree with it, but I disagree about a conversation on the.
I'm not saying we're
There's
talks
no
of fire,
way.
but I think right now, Dan Lanning has a ton of hype around his name. I think a lot of people have kind of, maybe not so much anymore because of what Indiana accomplished, but for a while it felt like him and Cignetti were kind of the same realm as far as coaching goes. And I felt like while his teams were consistently good, he always failed to meet the true expectation of where his team was supposed to go. And I thought this season, and I feel like it's the same conversation we've had with Ryan Day. You have these loaded rosters, and then when you get to one of your biggest games, you drop the ball. And you look uncharacteristic from what you have all season. And I feel like that if we're going to do it to Ryan Day,
which we are,
and deserving. I would be the first one, and I've done it on this, where I've given him criticism for it. I think it's only fair to have the same conversation with Dan Lanning. If they are healthy and the situation goes like it has for them the past 2 years, and it continues on to its third, I think that's a fair conversation to start having of going like, okay, how good can they actually be?
Might I suggest, much like Ryan Day, that they lose a game to Michigan this coming year to help them to help them along the way. My pick is not going to shock anybody. I like that pick, but it is not crazy. I went between two. I almost went with Notre Dame.
I almost did too.
I'm going with Indiana to repeat. And I know how hard it is to repeat as a national champion, especially in the expanded era. And in some ways you make it, well, that makes it easier. I don't think it does. I think it makes it easier to make the playoff, but I don't know if it makes it easier to win the national title. Here's why I'm going to take Indiana. Did you see what they did 12 hours ago? Kurt Zignetti's going nowhere. They have used the portal like crazy. Josh Hoover's, it's like, you're kind of looking at going, well, Fernando Mendoza's not going to be there. No, but you know who will? Josh Hoover, the gunslinger from TCU. Oh, well, Omar Cooper's not going to be there. No, but you know who will? Nick Marsh. Do you remember him? The only good player Michigan State's had for 2 years. So Indiana, I mean, what world are we in? Indiana just won a natty, went 16-0, and we're talking about how Indiana's just going to reload in football. Mm-hmm. That's one reason. The other reason why is, and I, again, there's nobody on the planet that can disrespect Indiana at this point. That is a good football team. One of the reasons why I would pick them to repeat is that with the talent that they've got, with the experience that they have, the talent that and execution that they've shown, now they've been to the mountaintop. It's not just, hey, we think we can get there. They've been there. They're standing there and they're looking down. And when you have the high ground on teams, that's a pretty good place to be. They play one of the worst schedules I've ever seen. Worst meaning like one of the softest schedules I've ever seen.
Michigan's on it.
You're on it.
Continue.
You fool. Sorry, this is from a ministry. Don't say fool. You ignoramuses.
Thank you.
Okay. But I mean, we're talking about like they play 8 home games. They have 4 away games. One of them is at Rutgers, which doesn't even count.
Hey now.
You know what?
You leave my Scarlet Knights out of this. They've done nothing to you.
They play 4 away games at Michigan, at Nebraska, at Washington, at Rutgers. Everything else is at home. And they're playing teams like the Howard Bison, North Texas, Western Kentucky, Northwestern, Purdue. I mean, like the tough games they have on their schedule would be at home against Ohio State, at home against USC, at Michigan. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, that is not meant to take anything away from them. It's not meant to say that, hey, going 12-0 would not be that impressive because you win all your games. You won all your games.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, those are very difficult games. I'm saying the whole of the schedule is not really comparable to what we just saw from Michigan or Ohio State. This team feels like they have a ton of talent. They've obviously got great coaching. Their schedule feels very favorable. 2 of those 3 tough games, they only have about what I'd call 3 tough games.
Mm-hmm.
2 of those 3 are in Bloomington. So, I mean, at Michigan is the only road game that I go, well, that seems tricky. I'm not even putting at Washington there. They should be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Indiana just feels like the simplest, most reasonable team right now.
I mean, that's an easy lock for the playoffs. Easy lock.
It seems like it, and it's hard to pick against. Why would you not pick against them? Indiana football's winning national championships right now. You got anything else on that?
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but they are absolutely a lock to the playoffs. It's just too hard in my mind to repeat. And I think there are teams that you're going to see a lot of growth in. I almost took Notre Dame in this spot. Another team that I thought could potentially get there is Texas. I feel like they're going to be another top team.
Because again, we talked about Ohio State going there in week 2, on the road to Texas, and you're going to have Arch Manning, and so Texas looks like a dangerous team. They had a season, and they were very different seasons, but I mean, they had a season not unlike Michigan's, where you had all this hype around a young quarterback, and there were some ups and downs. Now, Arch obviously, I think it's very fair to say, we talked about this, played his best football down the stretch.
Yeah.
No question about it, where Bryce didn't. There's no question about it. We saw it in the bowl game. And so at the same time, though, Texas came in with all these aspirations. I don't think Michigan thought they were winning a natty this year, but Texas did not have the season they wanted to have with their young quarterback, but they're looking around going, okay, we've got the pieces to make a run. I don't know that I believe Michigan's in a natty conversation for next year, especially if the schedule was better, maybe. Yeah. I just don't think that's realistic. But I think Texas and Michigan and even Ohio State, none of them had the seasons that they wanted to have. And so they're all kind of looking around going, we've got the pieces to at least make some noise next year. I think that's fair for all three of those teams.
Yeah. My last thought is just looking at those schedules, just how crazy good and deep the Big Ten is. It's just, we said it at the beginning of this episode. The college football runs through the Big Ten now.
Yeah.
And
undoubtedly
next year, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to win 4 in a row. I feel very confident in that, even if it's not Oregon.
Yeah. You've got Indiana. You've got Oregon. You've got, I mean, listen, who's to say Michigan or Ohio State couldn't end up there too?
I mean, I think it's very possible.
I was trying to think of another Big Ten team that could possibly threaten.
Maybe.
I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
Yeah.
Rutgers.
Don't you tempt me with a good time.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening right now. By the way, even though this is the season finale, I want to make it very clear. We have got episodes coming out throughout the entirety of the off season. Okay. So we will not leave you college football lists. Okay. And between now and August, we've got spring games coming up. Spring games are like a couple months away. It's incredible. We'll have content for you all the way through. Of course, you can continue to follow on social media at Rival Pod, and be sure to subscribe, rate, review wherever you're listening right now. The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and RivalPod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.